Nicola Sturgeon has chosen not to appear with Steve Bannon to debate about politics and so on this BBC programme coming up. She's basically cancelled because that's what the quote-unquote left do. They're not left, right? But they actually just shut down everything. They are censorious, and that is an example of that. But more than that, why did she cancel? Let's analyse it. Let's analyse why she's got beef with Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon, who was in the Trump administration, who ran Breitbart, who has spoke about nationalist populism, who basically popularised the word, who supports people all around the world, populism, and governments taking back their sovereignty and giving it back to the people, you know, rather than just this global insurgency. He supports everything that nationalism is and opposes everything globalism is. And Nicola Sturgeon, by wanting to stay in the EU, she's a globalist pretending to be a nationalist, and everyone should know that now. They are not nationalists. The SNP, Scottish National Party, they're not nationalists. They're globalists. It's a globalist party. It's a lie. The whole experiment of devolution was to pull Britain apart, was to have all these different parts of Britain pulling it apart when there's unity on Brexit, and they want to stay in the EU, and, you know, they don't like Brexit, but they want to stay in the EU. Right, yeah, because the EU is so liberal, isn't it, after censoring the internet and so on. But these censorious leftists, that's what the liberals are like now. Bannon knows that Nicola Sturgeon isn't a nationalist. He knows that she's a scam artist. He knows that she's a globalist, and he would eat her for breakfast. That's why she cannot appear alongside him. She would be exposed, and she can't afford that. She needs people to think that she's a nationalist, because otherwise the scam doesn't work. It's just like Brexit. You know, we had the Lancaster House agreement and all the things going on in the background with the Brexit Secretary, David Davis, and then, of course, Chequers came along, trounced everything. No one voted for it, no one likes it, and now we're having the decision of, well, Remain, or if there's another referendum, Remain or Chequers. Well, Chequers isn't Brexit. Everyone knows Chequers isn't Brexit. People have said chuck Chequers. The Prime Minister won't, because these orders came from Merkel. She's working for the EU. The same EU that Nicola Sturgeon wants to stay with. You know, the PR pampered woman in that red dress, etc., that doesn't want to talk to actual nationalists or populists or appear with them. You would think they'd have something in common. But it's funny that all these so-called nationalist movements that get supported by people like Nicola Sturgeon, etc., and Catalonia was another one, I don't actually think they are actual nationalism. And that's not to forgive the behaviour of Spain, when they just arrested people for having a referendum or an election or something. They just had police beating people up for just turning up at the polls. That's not right, but what was even more wrong was the EU's silence on the subject. They didn't do anything, and now that Brexit's happening, they won't go away! Except Brexit isn't happening, Chequers is happening. And it looks like Nicola Sturgeon won't be saying, "See you!" She'll be saying, EU! EU, Jimmy! Devolution seems to initially give more democracy, but at a time when an actual referendum takes place and people get to actually have their say, since the world financial crisis, the first time they've actually had the say on the global elite and what they think about that. And the elitism in general, and the whole thing. We want to get out of the EU, we were lied to, it's became a political union, now they're getting an EU army, and we were called conspiracy theorists for saying that. Nick Clegg, Lord of Facebook, called us conspiracy theorists for that. Lord Cleggy, Zucker Clegg. Because they have to have these stupid pompous titles. They have to revel in these ridiculous titles and roles and ceremony and pomp and ceremony, and make us all feel like they're important when they're nothing. So Nick Clegg can become Lord of Facebook, even though he tried to push us into war and invade Syria in 2013, even more vehemently than David Cameron did. Nick Clegg shouldn't be rewarded for being a failure in a coalition. And at least Liberal Democrats did hold back Conservatives from getting their agenda fully through. You know, they weren't able to get through things like the Snoopers Charter, which Theresa May has now got through. All the stuff that they were trying to get through under Cameron, when Theresa May was Home Secretary, now they've got through, now that Theresa May is Prime Minister. And therein lies the problem, everyone. Theresa May is still Prime Minister. No one voted for her, and no one can support her anymore. She is treasonous. Literally, they could have just chosen her because it's Treason May. It's just ridiculous. Chequers is treason. And that's all she's pushing. She won't let us have Brexit. People, you know, Lord Adonis was speaking on the radio today and he was saying that he believes in democracy, but he doesn't like referendums. He sees Parliament voting as more democratic than the people voting because the people make the wrong decisions. Parliament is supposed to make the decisions for the people because the people make the wrong decisions. Yeah, that's democratic, isn't it? And then out the different side of his mouth, the same guy, the same statement, whatever, he says that he believes in democracy. Fascinating. What he means is he believes in democracy when it goes his way. He believes in free speech when it says things that he supports. But if it deviates from that, then so help you, You don't deserve to have free speech. You don't deserve to have democracy because you made the wrong choice. It's not one that I like, and I'm going to cry about it with all of my celebrity chums, etc. on Twitter. We're all going to go on Twitter and moan at taxi drivers for having their own say and not the one that I wanted. And that was Matt Lucas throwing all his toys out the pram. I guess that they were right when they said, he's a baby. Yeah, he's a big baby. He's a big Ramona. They're all Ramonas. They're all globalists because they think globalism's trendy. It's not. And nationalism, they think is racist. Unless, of course, it's the SNP, when it becomes trendy and wonderful because it's left-wing nationalism, which isn't real nationalism. It's just globalism because they want to stay in the EU. Wake up!